Welcome back to the Georgia Show. We are here to bring you everything that's going on. I think we're got a handle on it, but I was telling Bill before the show, I feel like it's the Blair Witch Project, and we look away and something else pops up. You know, a little witch brew that we got to figure out what it is, man. What's going on, Bill? How you doing?
Well, be careful using the word witches.
Oh, that's true. I forgot we're on the
You've
Georgia.
been called witch by
I
the
have
way
been called a
by
witch.
former governor candidate, as I recall. So
Yes, this is true. I forgot. I'm in the coven. Wow, a lot going on today, Bill. What do we got on the show?
so we're going to talk about the military meetings that happened yesterday in Quantico, Virginia. We're also going to welcome in our special guest. BKP was here with us this evening. We're going to bring him in just a couple of minutes. We're going to talk about some things that happened following the meetings yesterday, and we just get used to these odd posts that seem to have meaning, and maybe they do. And I guess we might find that out. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about some things that have happened online today, some things that Trump followed up with, both in communications on status in the U.S., but also poking some fun at our brethren, if you will, or so whatever you want to call them over on the Democratic side. And then we'll pivot over to Georgia. We're going to get an update on the First Liberty debacle that's been going on now for months, and the folks that seem to be skirting around the edge of it. We'll talk about some other updates there, some impact to individuals that it has caused. And we're going to talk about a couple of candidates in Georgia so that we get a better sense of who these people may actually be. We made this promise back immediately following the legislative session. We said we will not let people forget the choices that our legislators have made, and we will not let them forget. So add that all up, and that is our show for this evening.
It's gonna be a big one and a full one. We need your support. If you've been watching the skiff the last few days, we have been targeted pretty heavily. We've got DDoS attacks happening almost every day. We had equipment issues, just all kind of things that aren't very cool, and we need your support. So either sign up for our no ad subscriptions. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. You get access to all 13 of our sites. We're putting out a buttload of content these days all over the world, and you get it without ads. People love this, and we get a lot of good response on this, so please keep that up. Or you can just make a donation at the support tab on the top, or the second line. If you go to cdm.press, the second line in the menu is all our retail options: books, medical, food, how to grow food, gold, precious metals, a lot of different things you can see there. You can buy through us and help support free media, and don't support the big box retailers that don't like you very much. All right, Bill, let's get going.
All right. Well, why don't we, before we get going with our first slide, let's welcome in our guest. How about that?
Yeah, sure.
So we are delighted to welcome Brian K. Pritchard, host of BKP Politics on Voice of Rural America. BKP, welcome. It's great to see you, my friend.
He's furiously writing, Bill. I think we're in trouble. He's got that.
No, I'm looking. Yeah, I am making a note. I'm writing Russ Voigt, OMB director, to remind myself of something. I recognize you, Todd, but it's been so long. I mean, it took me a minute, but that's Bill.
Yeah.
How are you guys? How are you guys doing? I tell you what, I'm listening to the intro. Thank you for having me. I'm like, wow. I mean, I get to sit in on this. This is going to be amazing. I mean, I'm like,
well, you know, we can't hold a candle to 3 hours a day, but we can do our best to jam in all we can into an hour. So
yeah, it's kind of like that country song. I'm not good as I once was, but I'm good for an hour.
There you go. Well, let me go ahead and
go ahead and take off there, because you got an action-packed hour.
We do. So let me tee up what we like to have a theme for each one of our shows. And this one is going to begin with this: Trump lays down the law. And this was the feeling coming out of the both the Pete Hegseth kickoff yesterday, along with Trump's own comments. We spoke about this upcoming meeting in our last two shows. 800 of the ranking military officials from around the world were ordered into Quantico, Virginia for a day-long meeting. They got kicked off by Raisin Cane, General Raisin Cane, who is one of Trump's favorites. And then Pete Hegseth addressed the crowd. We're going to hear a couple of his comments. And then Trump spoke for about an hour. And he had some very interesting things to say. But the tone was interesting, I would say. And already we've seen an impact by at least one ranking individual. So we'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. To get us going, let me play some of Pete Hegseth's comments as he addressed the 800 people in the crowd.
Justice, politically correct and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department. To rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that shit. I've made it my mission to uproot the obvious distractions that made us less capable and less lethal. That said, the War Department requires the next step. Underneath the woke garbage is a deeper problem, and a more important problem that we are fixing and fixing fast.
So it was a very direct set of comments to this crowd. And, I don't think we expected much less. And of course, much of what he's saying, I take as a proxy for President Trump's own views. So let me pause there and get comments from both you guys in terms of what you thought about Pete Hegseth during his address.
Go ahead, BKP, then I'll chime in.
Well, one thing, I felt bad for Klinger from MASH, but, the dresses, no more dresses. But I was wondering yesterday, and there's so much, what was it like to be a drill sergeant this morning somewhere? I'm back, but in all seriousness,
it's kind of Full Metal Jacket image there going, right?
Yeah, exactly. Good morning, ladies. But no, in all seriousness, what I do every day. I study what I call the mockingbird, deep state, corporate, corrupt media, and I watch how they try to spin it, and they've lost it. They're going nuts over this, and Trump and Hegseth talk down to these generals, and we were so unsafe because these people have left their post around the world. But you got to remember something. Pete Hegseth wasn't just speaking with those men and women in uniform in that room and the American people. The Chinese were watching. The Russians were watching. The world was watching. And a message was sent around the world that we are prepared if you move on Taiwan, because I was reading a Taiwan newspaper, and China is building cargo ships to mask as cargo ships that carry tanks for a full-scale assault on Taiwan. That's one of the many examples. So there needed to be a change in culture. I'll let Todd talk about that. But let's not forget, with them all freaking out when I say that on that side, and the Democrats, they were talking directly to China and around the world.
Yeah, I would agree completely. I'll give you my take on this and what struck out in my view. Back in the day when I was going through the academy, we had things was called the purpose of the fourth class system, and the fourth class system was extremely difficult. It was extreme. People called it hazing. We called it training, right? And it's not that way today. They changed it in the late 80s, unfortunately. But the purpose of it, and I can't remember exactly, it was to put a stress and strain on a fourth class cadet so that to instill something in a fourth class cadet so that no stress or strain would erase it. Like to put you through like a kiln to make pottery so that you come out on the other side and you're a different person, meaning you can deal with a lot of stuff and it just rolls off you. You look at a lot of young people today and they're just brittle. I mean, you yell at them the wrong way and they kind of wilt like a flower. we need to go back, and I hope that's what they're going to bring back across the military. You talk about drill sergeants. It's the same concept. You know, why do you cut the hair? Why do you put them in the same clothes? Why do you make them say the same things? It's to create something new, right? And to make them a unit, to forge them as a unit. And I was watching the movie Patton last night with my daughter. Yes, she likes history. And, you know, one of Patton's quotes I remember having to memorize is, if you can't make them wear the hat you want them to wear and dress the way you want them to dress and salute the way you want them to salute, how are you going to get them to die for their country? So that we have to get back to that kind of warrior mentality. And I hope that that speech is the beginning of that.
Yeah.
You know, Todd, you don't join. I'll get out of the way. You don't join to be who you want to be.
Yeah.
You join to be who they want you to be, period. That's the military.
That's a good
bottom
point.
line.
Let me put a third facet on this. So BKP, you noted that the comments had meaning for China. And Todd, you talked about, you know, making sure that the military ends up to be what we need it to be. Keep in mind that last week, at the request of Kristi Noem, Trump committed that Pete Hegseth would be able to deploy and utilize military force where needed. And he mentioned Portland. And in the last couple of weeks, he's mentioned Chicago, Memphis, and I want to say one other area. I've forgotten where now. I think that in part, if you listen carefully to some of the comments, part of the message here is that force, those formations, as Pete mentions a number of times, can be deployed and may be deployed wherever needed, including if it's required for things like Antifa or others here in the country.
Yes.
We're not going to stand back and let the same things happen that happened in 2020, 2021, where cities are burning down, and then at the last minute, you know, somebody has to go in and try to fix it. So that means the message was to two groups. One, to those bad actors, Antifa and others, and other, I believe he's referred to other domestic terrorist organizations. We'll leave on the table who that may be right now. But two, it's to the American public, so that they understand that if this comes to be needed, that those forces are available and they are acting on our behalf, our best interest. And I think we need to keep that in mind as we go forward.
That's a really good point, and I think they're sending a message. I mean, Trump's taking the gloves off really with these ICE agents, and I just want to play a quick video. It's 30 seconds, but this happened this morning or late yesterday.
Get out the fucking elevator!
So they're not messing around. You know, if you do something they don't want you to do, they're cleared to use force to get you out of the way. And I think that's a message being sent.
Yep, I think that's true. And unfortunately, it comes to a point where if that is not a preparation that has been made and something that people are willing to do, then we continue to have these cases where bad actors go and do bad things. And all that happens is we see a video of somebody getting hurt by the bad guys.
Well, yeah, it's the broken window theory, right? If you're allowed to go up to ICE agents and spit in their face and punch them and throw rocks at them or whatever, then, you know,
that's right.
There's no deterrence. I mean, this is deterrence is what we're building here.
Well,
right.
you know, there's border agents in Chicago, and I played a clip on the show this morning of border agents in Chicago, and they arrested 30. And they're interviewing the head guy there at the border patrol that's there in Chicago, and you know, he said they arrested Trey Diagua, they arrested gang members, they arrested 30, and the guy looked at the reporter and said, "You live next door to Trey Diagua, you live in the apartment next door where they have the prostitutes, the sex trafficking, the child trafficking. You live next door where they sell the drugs. Then call me a Nazi." Yeah. You know, the guy said, then call me, you know. Yep. So sad to say, right here in America, in these cities, these are war zones.
That's exactly right. So Trump took the stage and sent a pretty direct message himself to kick off. Let's listen to this.
Great job you're doing too. Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. You're not allowed to do that. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank. There goes your future. But you just feel nice and loose, okay? Because we're all on the same team. And I was told that, sir, you won't hear a murmur in the room. I said, we got to loosen these guys up a little bit. So you just have a good time. But I want to thank Secretary Hegseth and General Kane, General Raisin Kane for a reason, they call him that. When I heard his name, I said, you're the guy I'm looking for.
He has talked about General Kane a number of times since his first administration. And there is something pretty cool about, a guy that goes by the name Raisin Kane. One of the comments that he made, people have been focused on all day long today. And it is kind of fascinating. I don't know what to make of it. It's like so many other things that have happened with Trump over the last several weeks. He made this particular comment, and you can take it a couple different ways, but let's just listen to it for a minute.
With the F-47, I said, all right, let me think about it. Then after thinking for about 2 seconds, I said, okay. You know what that means, 47, I'm 47. So I'm 45, 46, and 47, if you think about it. I just don't want the credit for 46. I don't want to have their open borders and people coming in from all over the world, including jails and mental institutes. I don't want that on my record, but I like having it.
So I was 45 and 46 and 47. Well, I guess we'll figure out in the fullness of time what he means by that. But it is notable that not a day has gone by, even during the Biden administration, when we didn't hear from Trump, either through Truth Social or through another means. And in many cases, we didn't hear from Biden. I remember months would go by without a real press conference from Biden. And even then, when he might make a statement, he'd kind of turn around and wander toward the back of the venue before any questions could be asked. So we will see what all that portends. The other thing that's happened following this is this note came out from the Department of Homeland Security earlier this afternoon, about 2:00 on the East Coast. Now arrives the hour of action. As if we didn't have enough questions in our mind. What does that mean? Well, I guess we're going to find out. I doubt that they're just throwing it out for the sake of something to post. The other interesting thing is many of the military sites had notices, I'll come back to this in just a minute, that they were going to be down. The White House and Carolyn Leavitt posted that Democrats have shut down the government. Many of the military sites were posting things that said there's a lapse in the appropriation, so we won't be posting updates. And then there's this notice from one of the generals, which I'll go back to. But there's four areas of service there that said on their Twitter sites and on their websites, there's a lapse in appropriation, so we're not going to be posting regular updates. There's one missing. Do we know who it is?
No, tell us, Bill.
The Marines. The Marines are missing. They appeared to keep their site up somehow. Not sure how, but let's take a look at this. Remember, he said, if you don't like what I said, you're welcome to leave the room. And as of today, this general has tendered his resignation and is leaving. It's too small to read, and it's interesting, but folks can read this for themselves. We'll put it up on the Georgia Record tomorrow, but General Thomas Bussier, I believe is how you pronounce it, an Air Force commander, is leaving. And timing was very interesting. So apparently, did he hear something he didn't like? Maybe. Is he one of the ones that probably couldn't pass the twice-a-year physicals that are now going to be required? Maybe.
It's likely
we'll
he
see.
was. We were the ones on CDM or our Armed Forces channel that interviewed Matthew Lohmeyer, who's now the Undersecretary of the Air Force. He was the Space Force commander that got fired due to our interview, and he's back in the Trump administration. And likely they're being selectively removing people. That's just my guess.
Yeah, maybe he's fat.
Yeah, could be.
No, I didn't say it. Pete Hegseth said it. Trump said. I mean, right? Did I say it? No. Maybe he just doesn't see where that's gonna work out.
Quite possible. Quite possible.
Well, it is interesting when you go back to, for example, movies like Heartbreak Hill with Clint Eastwood. I mean, they talk about, commanders and leaders having to do the same things that they ask their troops to do. Otherwise, how do you keep respect? And I think it's a very good point that Pete Hegseth made. If a commander won't do the things that he's asking his men to do, how the heck does that look to the men? And I think it's a valid point. I'm just glad I don't have to keep up with that PT schedule.
Well, before we move on to another subject, I'll throw some humor in here. This is a blast from the past. Speaking of training as a 4th class cadet, I'll throw this up. That was me getting the shit beat out of me years ago. So anyway.
And that's not faked either, is it?
No, it's not.
Oh, gee.
I got a question for Todd. I know you want to move on, but
yeah.
They've made a big deal today on the networks, talking about, Pete Hegseth really doesn't want women in the military. Mm-hmm. And really the only thing the guy said yesterday, and correct me if I'm wrong, every job that you want to do in any branch of military, anything you want to do, there is a physical requirement that they set that says if you can meet that physical requirement, you can safely do that job. Anything underneath that physical requirement, if you can't meet that, you could get hurt, you can endanger others in the group, whatever. He never once said, that he's going to make it to where a woman cannot serve. Every position will have a physical requirement,
right?
And you got to meet it. Am I correct on that? That's basically what he said.
That's exactly what he said.
I want to get clarification on that, and I'm not disagreeing with what you said, but I thought he said that there wouldn't be any women in combat arms, which is like infantry frontline type combat.
I don't know if I heard that.
I got to clarify that.
But he did say there's not going to be a double standard of physical requirements. Right. A position will have a physical requirement standard, and he did say if a woman can meet that standard, they could serve.
Yeah. Did you want to welcome a couple sponsors' messages?
Yeah, let's do that. We've got a lot of sponsors that really help us a lot. And I'm just going to play a couple ads and I'll give a brief comment. Here we go.
Can I ask a question about the nicotine pouches?
Yes.
Does it melt in your mouth or do you have to spit it out later?
You can spit it out, you can swallow it, or you just savor it. I mean, you throw it in like you would a dip of tobacco.
Okay.
But you just let it sit there and then it suffuses your nervous system with life-giving nicotine. And it really does feel like the hand of God is massaging you.
But does it feel like the high of smoking a cigarette?
It's simultaneously, if you can imagine the Zen paradox, higher alertness accompanied by deep relaxation.
Wow.
So you really are, it's a Zen experience. You're like cat-like in your readiness, but you're fully
And how
relaxed.
long does it last?
I always have one going. Sometimes if things are, if I need it, I'll put another one in. So I've got 18 milligrams of nicotine, but that gives me an unfair advantage.
You're banging 18 milligrams? Woo. That's impressive.
I don't like to because everybody else kind of recedes into the background and I become this kind of colossus when I do that, and I feel guilty about it. Hubris is inevitable at that point. So I usually keep it to one.
I mean, I could use a new addiction.
Oh, yeah.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, We can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
So real quick, if you're looking for stocking stuffers, a sleeve, a magazine of ALP containers, I'm recommending probably 6 lined up like a tube, a cylinder would be a great way to stuff a stocking. And you can go to cdmalp.com to get that. Don't use the old URL. Go to cdmalp.com. Thank you. Back to you, Bill.
Yep. And they are good.
Yeah,
they are good. All right. So Trump later in the day and earlier today had a couple of victory laps on various things, and he took the opportunity to poke some fun at some of these guys. So let's take a look at this before we move on to other things. So one announcement came out that the trade deficit came down 42.9% in the second quarter. 42.9%. That's an amazing adjustment. And in part due, I'm sure, to the tariffs. There may be other factors as well. And then, of course, many people have seen this picture of Jeffries in the Oval Office. And look what's on Trump's desk. Trump 2028. And that wasn't the only thing. Here's the other little greeting that he gave to Hakeem.
Video, and we're going to continue to make clear, bigotry will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
You can't make this stuff up.
It's perfect, though, because it totally outs their intention just to bring in Latino voters. So
it's crazy. That's an El Donaldo special. So
yeah.
So it's been a fun 24 hours in some ways, and in other ways it's been concerning because there are indications that there's a bit of animosity and unrest. Yet there's also many videos that are coming up where people are trying to stoke things and are very quickly getting squelched. There was a video of somebody picking on I want to say it was Jack Posobiec somewhere, and immediately got taken down by police that just wouldn't put up with it in one of the cities. I don't know which one, but some very interesting things going on.
All right, what's next?
All right, we're right on time. We're gonna pivot to Georgia, and there's a number of things to talk about. Some are candidates, some are doings to do with the drama that's unfolded in Georgia in past months. Let's start with the Frost escapades. And here's one of our favorites, some of the Frost family and their confidants. Brant Frost is on the left, and there's the entire family, along with a couple of their friends. And so this is now hung on for several months, and people have continued to keep the pressure on it because even today, there are folks, Katie Frost, Brant Frost, Krista Frost, that are still in positions of leadership in various groups within the GOP in Georgia. Nobody can understand it. It's just craziness. Why would these people still be allowed to be, one, in the state committee, and two, holding positions of leadership, when it's very clear now that this Ponzi scheme has gone across what I believe is now 38 states and taken the savings of hundreds of victims. It's, you could call it alleged, I guess, at this point, but you have people coming forward left and right saying, I lost 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, 200,000. I lost my life savings in some cases. It's just horrendous. So BKP, I know that you have reported extensively on this. And then just this week, we heard about one of the members of the GRA that was impacted by their association with Frost family. Maybe you can weigh in on that if you would like.
Well, I tell you what, just let me build on what you said there. You went way too low. I mean, we get the 93-year-old farmer that lost 1.3 million. I personally sit down with a guy, a 76-year-old man, that his broker was Timothy Nathaniel Darnell. Timothy Nathaniel Darnell is the president of the GRA. This gets so convoluted. And he was a broker at Bankers Life Securities and Bankers Life Advisory Services. And Timothy Nathaniel Darnell referred this gentleman to First Liberty Building and Loan, which that is bad. And this guy and his wife, 76 years old, lost 600,000. And I personally sit down with them. This story is so, I mean, it's so far out there. It's hard to pull in and put a rope around it. But first of all, First Liberty Building and Loan, which is Brant Frost the fourth, for you people that don't know, but the whole entire Frost family. It would take a long time to do that. We'll leave it there. Bill, I'm going to take this on me. This is no reflection of CDM, but on the far end is the albino rhino, and that is Brant Frost V. But
the tallest of the group, yes.
Yeah, people in my audience wouldn't recognize him. And then we have in the sunglasses, we have Plaid Dad, okay? And they are looking across Kennebunkport, Maine to see if they can see the bushes while spending $200,000 of somebody else's money to vacation. But anyhow, the whole entire family, their only source of revenue was this First Liberty Building and Loan, $140 million Ponzi scheme, largest Ponzi scheme in the state of history. Now, moving forward there, Brant Frost V, the GRA, the Georgia Republican Assembly, okay? Wow, let's put this together. Georgia Republican Assembly. And then you have the Georgia Republican Assembly PAC. Now, the Georgia Republican Assembly PAC, which was run by Brant Frost V, First Liberty Building and Loan, was pushing a lot of ill-gotten gains over into the GRA PAC. But they said, you know what? It's separate from the GRA. The GRA just loaned us their name. Seriously? No. But it was separate. Brant Frost V ran that. So the Georgia State Ethics Commission opened an investigation into the GRA PAC. They found 61 violations of non-reporting. I mean, they didn't report thousands of dollars they were spending. Okay. And today, the State Ethics Commission said, you know what? It can't be just a coincidence that the GRA is not tied in, because all these people are together. Now, going back, if you can stay with the story, we have Nathaniel Darnell is the president of the GRA, and he still is tonight. He got fired from his job. Okay, he's a broker over at Bankers Life Security. He got fired for he made unsuitable recommendations. All right. He failed to disclose outside business activities. He participated in undisclosed and unapproved private security transactions, and he used off-channel communications with clients. Now, there's a $1 million complaint against him. He got fired September 12th. Now, as president of the GRA, he's under investigation with the GRA PAC. That opened up tonight. This thing is getting so wide. And the receiver, because we don't want to get it confused, this is a state ethics commission that they're under investigation. the GRA PAC, and the GRA. Now, keep in mind the receiver, Gregory Hayes, just went to the court. This is the SEC investigation. They just went to the court and asked the judge to approve hiring accountants, more accountants, and lawyers and investigators, because this thing is such a mess. They can't get a handle around every bank transaction, where all the documents are. And the judge hasn't answered yet, but they've gone back to the judge to see if they can hire someone to start auctioning things off. So, I mean, I'll let you ask some of the questions here, but
well, I don't have a question, but let me just make a statement. Those were the allegations. I just want to make this clear to our audience that the firm said that's why they fired him. That is not any result of any criminal investigation. That's just what they put on the form.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
The other part that to many is very troubling are the groups that appeared to be targeted by the Frost family for approach and request to invest. And they centered or seemed to center, at least in part, around Christian groups, within whom the Frost family claimed to be, devoted Christians and followers, and two, members or associates of conservative groups, including the GOP, and maybe some of the folks associated with the GOP around Georgia and beyond. What have you found there? What are your observations there so far, BKP?
And what is that?
With the two groups that they seem to really targeted, the Christian groups, the parish goers, and so forth, that unfortunately got caught into being victims, along with people associated with the GOP.
Well, I will say this: what is upsetting? There was a report last night, and this is not going away. I want to follow up something on Todd said there a minute ago for some clarification also. But there was a report on Atlanta CBS last night, and they were at a couple's house. This was a fresh report last night. They've lost everything. They're seniors. And they interviewed the investigator for the Georgia Secretary of State. Look, this has an SEC investigation. This has a Georgia Secretary of State investigation. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it because it's cross state lines. All right, that you mail a check from here to another state and it's something wrong with it. That's mail fraud. But I'm going to go on a limb and say the FBI is in this. All right. I can't confirm that, but I'll say that. And then you have the State Ethics Commission. And to your question last night, what was most upsetting is the state investigator for the Secretary of State of Georgia said the majority of the 150 so far that have come forward are seniors. And that their seniors is who poured most of the money in that they're seeing is they targeted seniors and seniors that, were trusting, we've gone through this before. Brant Frost IV. I mean, if you went to their website and anything you see in any of their publications, they would claim that this business, that their profits were to grow ministries around the world and to support missions. And, they were Sunday school teachers and all the above. So they really preyed on seniors because they knew they're sitting on the retirement. They're sitting on their money. Todd, something you said earlier, because you understand this, Timothy Nathaniel Darnell was a broker, and there's a website called Broker Check, and you can always go there and it updates any broker that is licensed if there's any complaints or anything like that. So you as someone that wants to invest. So my understanding is he wasn't able to use his position and his clients and refer them to, an unlicensed, investment group outside of where he worked. So That seems to be what the accusation is, and it's just that. It's an accusation right now and an open investigation.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm sure this is going to go on for quite a long period of time. As you mentioned, it is not a criminal matter at the moment. It is a civil matter, as in the form that it's being investigated, at least by the SEC and the Secretary of State and so forth. However, at some point in the future, there is the possibility that there will be criminal referrals that may be had, and that will likely follow the collection of as much of these funds as the receiver can get his arms around, I would assume. So
let me say this, they're digging in banks. Okay. They're digging into transactions. We don't know, but something of this magnitude starts to get people to talk. So we don't know that. The investigators are not going to share with us who is working. I'm going to say odds are there's some people cooperating. That's the way it works, and it's possible people are cooperating. And the GRA PAC, they open the door, as you well know. Anytime you have something like this, you start getting discovery, and some things allow you to look in areas you generally don't get to. First Liberty Building and Loan put money over into the GRA PAC. They're investigating now Brant Frost V, not just a fourth. And the GRA PAC, what they did today is tied the GRA to them. Now, this is bigger than it sounds right now, because it's going to start allowing them to go into members or board members of the GRA and start looking at transactions and different things there. And as you well know, when the State Ethics Commission gets done with their investigation, they're going to turn that file over to the SEC, and they're going to turn it over to others. This is a long way from being solved.
Yeah.
The whole Christian issue, I just want to make a point. I've been out of the country a lot, BKP. That's why I haven't called you, but you need to come on the show soon. But the Christians have been targeted everywhere. I think this could be just another vector of that, where you're literally targeting Christians financially, not physically, but you're harming them, right? And I got a call from a Presbyterian church in Los Angeles, a member of that, saying, I saw your coverage in Beirut and Armenia, and we've got some issues. And so this is a big thing, and this could be a part of that. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay. Did we want to take one more break before we?
Yeah, sure. I'll play a couple more ads, and we'll go from there.
The wait is finally over. My towels are back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. Towels that actually work. What a concept. And that's not all. Check out our MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings, regular $119.98, now only $29.88. And how about our limited edition premium MyPillows, made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset, made exclusively for you to thank you for all your support. Queen $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get My Towels for $39.98. MyPillow bed sheets only $29.88.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our cdm.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. Back to you, Bill.
All right. So earlier in the year, excuse me, right after the legislative session, we made a promise to our listeners and everybody that follows us, and that was we will not let folks forget what was done. We believe not in keeping with the best interest of Georgians or maybe people elsewhere in the country, and by whom it was done. And so we are going to follow through with that. And I was prompted by something to follow up on this that I received earlier today. Let me show this. I get this mailing that you see on the left from one Buddy Carter, who is running for senator in here in Georgia for the U.S. Senate. Mr. Carter is on record back in 23, and I think he pushed it again in 24, to place the Okefenokee Swamp, part of our state, underneath the UN in an organization known as UNESCO, and name it one of the World Heritage Sites. Now, you get some pushback very quickly with this as soon as he announced it, because people didn't want to have part of our land given away to the UN. And they quickly tried to pivot and say, no, it's just a name. It's just a name. Well, it's not just a name. If you go up to the UNESCO site, you can actually see them describe what they do to help manage the areas that are named underneath their World Heritage Sites. So they would have a say in how the Okefenokee Swamp gets managed. I don't know how most Georgians feel, but I think that they would be abhorrent to have the UN have anything to do with land here in Georgia. Second, you see that Mr. Carter is trying to associate himself as what he calls, I guess, a MAGA warrior along with Trump. Well, is he aligned with Trump? Well, let's take a look at this. Trump, just in the last few months, has removed us from association with UNESCO, not once, but twice. Why? Because in his own words, they are not acting and they do not represent the best interests of the United States of America. So why would Mr. Carter be claiming that he's aligned with Trump when he has a track record of trying to push off some of our land to UNESCO? I think this is bull to me. We're going to call it out, and we're going to keep calling it out, because this is just, it's trying to put lipstick on the pig. This is a bad thing and never should have been proposed. And now that it was, we need to call it out. Okay, so there's one. And let's talk about the other. You'll recall, listeners will recall that earlier in the year, we called out two very precise pieces of legislation as bad. One was tort reform. That was SB 68. And the other was what we ended up calling the pesticide bill. Now, both of these had analogies running in other states at approximately the same time, being proposed in much the same way, but with slightly different language. And I was reminded this afternoon by our friend BKP that, these legislative bills are not drafted by the legislators. They're drafted by lobbyists. And BKP, I'm going to call on you to describe that process in a couple of minutes. But these were bad bills. One is the tort reform bill is solely for the benefit of the insurance companies. And you can tell by the people that were pushing it. They were associated with lawyers who had been defending insurance company spokespeople, people that had been associated with that. The pesticide bill had two very precise beneficiaries. One is ChemChina, which is the largest chemical manufacturer in China, and two was Bayer, the maker of the overall maker of Roundup in all its forms. And isn't it interesting that in the midst of that bill being considered comes a $2 billion Roundup verdict right here in the state of Georgia? And
go ahead.
And yet our legislature, unlike most of the other states that considered almost the same legislation, most other states didn't pass it. We did. And so go ahead.
Take that down for a second. I just want to show this. It came out today.
Yep.
Bayer bets on Parkinson's cure, meaning they're now offering drugs after decades of selling products tied to disease, meaning this is implying they created the disease and now they're selling the cure. So I found that fascinating. I was going to mention, I'm glad you brought that up, so I was going to tell you about that.
Sounds like an analogy for the way people are now saying big pharma works, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to put this up on the Georgia Record tonight.
Very good. Okay, so let me pause for a minute. BKP, can you just expand on the notion of who is actually writing these bills, and how is it that so many legislators get lined up behind bills like this?
I'm going to give you one example. Now, I have not had the opportunity to look at these two bills to see if they came out of this group. Okay. But there's something you said that's interesting. You said both of these bills, they were similar bills in different states. And I'm going to give you one example. You can go research this, folks. This is ALEC, A-L-E-C. ALEC is the American Legislative Exchange Council. All right. Now, it's a nonprofit. So lobbyists dump all kinds of money into this nonprofit. And then this nonprofit has your legislators all over the United States come to a meeting where lobbyists are on one side of the table, your legislators are on the other side of the table, and the meeting is under the guise of a 501c legislation education. That's the bottom line. This is a fact. You can read this. And they write the legislation together. The lobbyists, they hand it to the lawmakers at that time, show them how to present it, and lawmakers take it back. They vote on it there. They take it back to their state capitals. And that's why you'll see a piece of legislation show up just a little altered for different states, but the same thing.
Is that meeting in Ukraine, BKP? Just wondering.
No, you wait till you hear where they held one of the ones in the last year or so.
Well, they'll have them in Vegas. They had one in Savannah. Okay, they had one in Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on there and look at exactly how it works. And what I'm saying is, now I'm not for sure on these two pieces of legislation, but the sad thing to report, and lawmakers will yell that's not true, it's not true. We are really, all states, but particularly Georgia that I'm aware of, lobbyists write our bills. And that's the bottom line. Lobbyists bring the bills in, and they take place at things like, you can go look this up, ALEC, ALEC, where the lobbyists write the bill, and these groups bring them together in their 501cs, and your lawmakers are in the room.
Yeah.
It happens all the time, and that's how these bills are written. And we need some candidates to step up and run for office that say lobbyists will no longer. I'd like to see a governor candidate put on their platform, a lobbyist will no longer write a bill in the state of Georgia. But that's exactly what he put up tonight. The insurance lobbyists, they wrote that bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me jump in here, and I want to illustrate why I brought these two up, and it goes right to the point you're making, which is we have to vet our candidates very carefully. Now, let's focus just for a moment on SB 144, the pesticide bill. The title of the bill itself, fertilizers or pesticides, a manufacturer cannot be held liable for failing to warn consumers of health risks above those required by the United States Environmental Protection Agency. Well, that sounds okay until you consider who is the first to find out if there is a health risk? The company itself. So in this case, if they find out that there's a health risk and they don't report it, a manufacturer cannot be held liable for failing to warn. You see the problem? Now, who's behind these? This is the reason that I brought this up. Who voted for this? Well, one Greg Dolezal out of the 27th district. Why do I bring that up? Well, he just announced a candidacy for the lieutenant governor of Georgia, and yet he voted for this bill. And unfortunately, many did, and we have to hold them all accountable. But in this case, I want to point this out because now Mr. Dolezal is stepping up to say, well, I'm ready to go beyond just being a state senator. I want to be your lieutenant governor. This also goes back to the tort reform bill. How interesting. The tort reform bill, SB 68, who is one of the sponsors? Number 9 sponsor, Greg Dolezal. So as folks consider these and other choices as we get into the campaigns and elections, I would love to see someone ask the question, why did you choose to support tort reform? Who really benefited from that? Has anybody got a discount in Georgia because of that bill passing? No, not yet, and probably never will, according to many of the writings that have gone on about tort reform for 20 years. The pesticide bill. What about the $2 billion verdict for a gentleman that ended up with cancer because of those chemicals? What do you say to the next guy that ends up with cancer now that they can't be held responsible for failing to report? So this is the reason that I brought it up, and this is the reason that we need to be cognizant of what people's actions and choices have been. They're supposed to be watching out for the people of Georgia and more generally the people of the world.
Well, Bill, SB 144, it's a very lengthy bill and it's very, very deep. I don't want to just make it sound this simple, but pretty much what it does is it protects the company, it protects the farmer, as long as the warning is labeled on the box when it gets to the farmer, and it is. So when a farmer buys this product with these chemicals in there, the warning's on the box. It's there.
But what about the results that the company knows about that haven't yet made the label? They can't be held responsible for that.
But that is on the box. The notice is on the box of pesticides. When the farmer gets it, they spray. And when you go to the store, you don't know anything about the product that was sprayed from the farmer. So, you ask one of these lawmakers, they'll say, well, if we wouldn't have done that, we'd have lost the farmer's vote. Well, no, I don't agree with that 100%. I can't agree with that. The lobbyists wrote the bill.
Right. And I've talked to farmers who said, no, we don't want this either, because they're concerned about chemicals and effects that the company might know about, and they simply don't report it so it doesn't end up on the warning label. So, all right. Todd, what else have we got? I think you had a video that you wanted to share as well.
Yeah, we can run that. It's about 10 minutes. BK, we got anything else, BKP, that you want to talk about, or do you want to?
Well, we've got a lot going on. The first chance we get, I'll be glad to come back, because it is now wide open. We have about 5 candidates for governor. We have some interesting candidates on the Democrat side. We have now about 5 candidates for lieutenant governor. We have 3 Secretary of State candidates. I met with one today. We have 2 others. This is really, really hot. And now we have our Senate race. So anytime I'm really digging into that, I'm reading everything I can get my hands on where that's concerned. And I'm putting a lot of time into that. So I'll be glad to come back anytime to talk about politics and what's going on in these races.
Great. I'll have you on the skiff, and we'll probably have you back on the Georgia show soon too. This is a young man. It's about 10 minutes long, who is he's upset with what's going on in the country and his future, and he's doing something about it. I thought this is important that the people of Georgia should hear. So here we go. And now, Blake, thanks for coming on, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Thanks for Jackie Homan speaks very highly of you. So, and Bob McGuffey too. So, I don't know a lot about your organization. I'm just to be straight up. I read the article that was put out on the Connecticut Sentinel, and we run that whole paper, but Jackie kind of runs it. But tell me what you're trying to do and why you're doing it right now.
All right. So I am the founder and current president of American Destiny Incorporated. We are a campus organization. We are a little bit similar to TPUSA and YL in that regard, but we don't seek to evangelize or anything like that. That's not our purpose. We're not trying to, change people or students who disagree with ours minds. What we're trying to do is we look for students on the campus that are already on our side, that are already engaged.
Gotcha.
And we seek to kind of isolate their skill set, whether it be social media management or campaign strategy, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we work to connect them with a local campaign for Senate, for House, for a gubernatorial race, or any other type of cause, just to engage them in the civic process and kind of give them a real world, tangible, hands-on experience in that side of the way the American government runs.
So is American Destiny, is that a nationwide organization or just in Connecticut? Or
so it's a nationwide organization.
Okay.
We began working on things about 9 months ago. We formally launched in July in terms of incorporation and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We have right now about half a dozen people on board that are leading the charge in terms of administration stuff nationally. And then we're in talks with about 3 to 4 dozen students, all in different places around the country, in terms of starting a chapter of it come the spring semester, just in time for the midterms.
And are you finding a lot of kids that are like energized and ready to go? Or
yeah, especially after what happened very sadly 2 weeks ago. It seems like there's a lot of people willing to do a lot now, a lot more than I'd say 30 days ago.
And are they coming to you, or are you searching them out? Do they know about you? Are you big enough?
So far, we're searching them out.
Okay.
We're still trying to get our name out there and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But it's going pretty good, and we're getting pretty good engagement, and we seem to be building up this kind of network and this kind of infrastructure to be able to launch at a much higher functioning or operating capacity than we thought we would.
Wow. And are these all college kids, or is it high school too, or above, or whatever?
It's mostly college. There's a couple high school kids here,
okay.
But for the most part, it is college.
And what's been the impact or the response from the administrations of these universities? I mean, are they pushing you back, or what are you feeling?
So far, in the few places where we've talked to administration, we haven't seen that much pushback, especially since what happened this month. I think administration's a little scared to push back.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll see what happens once we are, really active and getting these students involved where they need to be. We'll see if that changes or anything. But as of right now, the limited interaction we've had has been pretty neutral.
Interesting. So you're in Connecticut, right? Am I right about that? Or
I live in Connecticut, but I'm going to school in Virginia.
Oh, okay. Wow. What's the vibe in Virginia?
I'm at an all male school.
Okay.
So I'd say my school's unique in that we're a lot more friendly to conservative and right wing politics than say, many other schools, even schools in the area. I think we're more open to that.
Interesting. So tell me, the young men seem to be rising up much more than the women. Do you see that? I mean, as far as saving the republic, bringing back whatever your belief system is, family, community. Do you see that among the guys you're hanging out with?
Yeah, I definitely say so. I think a lot of it has been this kind of, my generation. I think I'm 18 years old. I think we saw really the rise of what I'd say is like woke politics.
Totally.
And I don't always love using that word, but I think there's no other way to describe this part of it. The rise of, transgenderism and a lot of the pushing of social indoctrination, especially in young students, the rise of, I'd just say broadly, degeneracy. America did not look the way it does right now 20 years ago. You know, when I was born,
believe me, I know.
and my generation, we kind of have these early memories, these very odd early memories of America.
Wow.
It feels almost like an alien nation now in certain respects. And there's another thing with immigration. There's another reason my generation's not very big on immigration is because we've seen
the bad side of it for sure.
We've seen the bad side. We see what happens when you know, sadly, immigrants come over and do terrible things. And then also, I mean, we've seen broadly, I'd just say demographic change. And that's, you know, it's very weird when you grow up in an area that is all American and then suddenly, you know, people are speaking very vastly different languages, you know.
Do the guys around you, do they support like the deportations and ICE, you know, bringing back some semblance of the past?
I think young people are more on board with deportations than a lot of the older generations, actually.
Wow.
I think we've seen such radical, you know, change in our country, and we're facing such radical issues that it almost requires, you know, an unprecedented solution. And at least personally, and I know a lot of my peers agree, that is some semblance of mass deportations. And I mean, personally, I'd like to see some type of immigration and immigration halt for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. How was your school? You don't have to give me the name of where you are, but like, what are you seeing in the studies? And are they still pushing this agenda? I mean, you're in a special situation, so maybe you don't see this, but the guys that you see in your generation, do they still feel indoctrinated at the schools, I guess is the question.
I would say not so much at my school, but at the other schools and where I have friends at and where I know other people are going. I'd say, it hasn't changed a lot. I have friends that are right wing on some of including the most liberal campus in America. And the way they describe their courses and the way that administrators and faculty interact with them and the way that the school postures towards certain social issues is very disturbing. It's very disturbing that a secondary academic institution can be so political in nature and so partisan in its politics as well, and kind of shove that down the throats of so many people my age. And I think men are slightly less susceptible to indoctrination than women per se. But I think that there is now even a consensus forming among women our age that what's going on is not okay. One of the people very involved in our organization, Paige Shepard, she does a lot of the day-to-day work and stuff. And I mean, she's been one of the most vocal people I've heard in terms of my circle railing against this type of stuff.
So if somebody's at, you know, Auburn and they want to get involved in your organization, how do they start?
amdest.org, amdes.org. You can reach out to us, send us an email at office.amdes.org. We have a contact form on the website. You can reach out to us there.
Cool.
We're going to be, like I said, we're going to be really going operational in the spring semester of this year, just in time for the midterms, so we can start having an impact on the midterm, you know, races and seeing what we can do there.
So if you're in an all boys school, I mean, how do you meet girls? I mean, is there, do you go downtown, or do they have like inter college, like cattle calls or something, or how does that work?
I personally have a girlfriend, but there is a school 10 minutes away that is, I think, 75% female.
Gotcha.
So on Thursday through Sunday night, most of them are here.
Excellent. Wow. Blake, thank you. I want to have you back as this grows. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for your time.
Take care. You bet.
Did you ask him how he meets girls?
I heard cattle call. I'm not sure where to take that.
I'm like,
I have to get rid of this. Hold on one second. challenged here. Okay, I'm back with you. Sorry.
All right.
That was a term from the old Air Force Academy. They used to bus in the girls, and they called them cattle calls. So.
I'm sorry. What can I say? Okay. BKP, last words?
Last words was thank you, Todd. I like to see young people that are engaged, and I appreciate what he had to say. And I want to give a shout out to you because thank God we have several viewers, but I've got one in Connecticut there that's always sending me videos that he's training his grandson on how to finish concrete.
I know the guy.
Huh?
I know the guy.
It makes my days an awesome guy. But so I want to thank you for that, and thank you for having me on, guys.
He's the guy that drives around the most liberal town in the country with a huge Trump sign on the back.
Yeah,
it doesn't go over well. But and you know what, Bill, I found the John B. Wells is getting older. I found his successor. He's got the voice, right? I mean that deep. This kid could take over.
Was it that, or was he part of the witness protection program?
I was thinking of that too, man. He had to modulate on his voice or something. Anyway, crazy. That's all I got, Bill.
All right, very good. We will see you next on the Georgia show, the Georgia Record Show, this coming Sunday at 2 p.m. and tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. 10 a.m. for the Skiff with Todd, and 8 a.m. for BKP on BKP Politics on the Voice of Rural America. Lots of choices, lots of good info. All right, we'll see y'all next time.